Let me get my apple shirt in here. Apples mean fall too.
Not fall yet.
Not fall yet, but pumpkin spice started and the pumpkin spice juggernaut.
Yeah,
We
that's
got to remind people that apples mean fall too. All right, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, did you know that Walmart makes up more of the share of e-commerce grocery dollars than all the other supermarkets combined?
it's pretty impressive. It kind of reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs, like having higher odds than the rest of the NFL combined to win the Super Bowl. Just kidding, their odds aren't that high. Walmart is much more impressive in their field than the
Right?
Chiefs from theirs. No, it's really amazing. And they the story we had said they got it. Well, they overtook supermarkets about a year ago, and since then they've been expanding it. Now it's the highest spread. So, what do
Yeah.
you think about that? Do you think is that what you're seeing in the marketplace anecdotally?
Anecdotally, it makes complete sense because in the very early days of e-commerce, Walmart really pushed ahead, and they pushed ahead in a couple of really key ways. They weren't trying to chase down delivery. If you recall, there were all these grocers making partnerships with Instacart, which filed for IPO this week or late last week, by the way. They weren't chasing that third party logistics kind of thing. They were doing in-house grocery pickers. So not shipped or Instacart or Favor or whatever else is out there. And they were really, really pushing pickup, and pickup for a grocer and for the economy of scale as it is, like just getting started with online grocery, is so much more efficient. And it's so much more less costly than trying to figure out the logistics of the last mile or the first mile as it goes for grocery delivery. So they concentrated their efforts on that. Ad campaigns with like the remember the picture of the Dumb and Dumber shag wagon dog van thing, like,
That was a
and the
Super Bowl ad.
yeah, the Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was Walmart, and Walmart really focused on that and didn't try to chase the small dollars. They were chasing volume.
it seemed like from the very beginning they identified this as a true future category, and so they invested heavily in long-term investments. And some of the competitors went for short-term grabs and like instant gratification. And we would write about how they were losing all kinds of money on delivery, and we're like, where is the end game where this becomes profitable? And it's like Walmart just totally ignored that.
Yeah, they totally ignored the band-aids, it seemed like, and built infrastructure. And they built it into their stores with the pickup lockers and all that stuff. They were way ahead of even Amazon, because Amazon's trying to, shoehorn in their pickup locations at like the 7-Eleven around the corner and stuff like that. And Walmart was already way ahead of that. So no surprise whatsoever that they have 35% of e-grocery sales share. This is according to Brick Meets Click, a report from them and Mercatus. And supermarkets, just supermarkets has 29.8% of the dollars, the sales share.
Oh, I
And
didn't see
that's
it broken down. Did you see it broken down into like who makes up the supermarket? I mean, it's different than mass hard discount. So Kroger, I would assume, is in supermarkets, and they have made a lot of investments in digital grocery. So where do you think their market share would be?
right. I think Kroger's definitely in supermarkets. They did specifically mention Target, and Target was put in that mass section, and Target's kind of stumbled in grocery over the last 4 or 5 years at least, and they keep trying, but they keep launching more decor stuff and less food stuff. So I can't tell you the last time I went into a Target, honestly. They for me, if it doesn't have a decent grocery department, I'm not there, you know. So
We
HEB and
do have
Walmart.
we have one much closer than a Walmart, and so there's the temptation, but just going through that grocery department is just consistently a disaster.
It's consistently sad at Target. And the thing is that so I've got two super Targets that are in my neighborhood. And one of them remodeled into the new like department store kind of model. And the grocery department took a nosedive. Like it's obviously an afterthought. And then the Target that's closest to me, there's actually people complaining on my neighborhood Facebook page that it's beige now. And my son Uli saw that. He's like, why is Target beige? It's not red anymore. So it's like, how do you lose your brand recognition? We're not in a fancy neighborhood where all the like ordinances say you can't have flashy signage. Where's that big red Target? It's white now on a beige exterior. So it's a sad beige Target if you get that reference, but you probably don't because you're not on TikTok. So
Correct.
let's move on to our other story that we wanted to talk about. No surprise that Walmart's doing so well. But another kind of tangential thing to, you know, people trying to get a good deal on groceries, I guess, would be a watchdog group has a study that says that the expansion of SNAP is a prime contributor to grocery inflation.
Right. I saw this study written about in a few mainstream media outlets, and so I went to the source and found it. And they have some. I mean, it's they use data, but it is still kind of opinion based, and it's clear that they are an anti-government spending group. But they make a pretty compelling argument that at food stamps, that massive increase has definitely contributed to food inflation. And it's, there are a number of groups out there making arguments against the standard everything costs more. I mean, you remember in Canada, for instance, they were looking into grocery price gouging.
Yeah.
There's starting to be some skepticism, I think, among consumers and these groups about why prices have stayed so high for so long.
Yeah,
And
and rightfully so. Because some of this stuff you're like, because in the produce, we haven't seen prices stay nearly on this meteoric height. And obviously we all know that inputs cost more and transportation does not cost more right now, does it?
no, well, I mean, gas prices are artificially high too, though.
Yeah, but truck rates aren't.
Truck rates are definitely not. We're covering that, and they are low. Um, I think there's a lot of skepticism out there, and I like seeing more stories like this that look into some of this stuff. I mean, if you looked at like the housing market or the car market, I mean, there's definitely gouging going on and artificial restraints put into the system to prop up high prices. And I think people should be asking questions about why is it like this and who's in charge of making it like this.
I've been asked this before when I was presenting. Then why are retail prices so high? And this was even like a year ago. And I said you got to look at a certain point. You have to look at profits because they are also at an all-time high. So if input costs were up that much, profits would not be up as much. Sales dollars, yes, because sales dollars would reflect inflation and things like that. I do wonder about the slant of this article. We talk about SNAP dollars being anywhere from 8 to 25% of a grocer's, you know, it is in incoming sales. And how can it be a major contributor to inflation? I think there's a certain amount of correlation versus causation on this stuff. You can't say that it's directly causing record high inflation. But it is contributing to it, I'm sure. but definitely for me on this, I'm like, there's a certain percentage of this that is correlation versus causation.
Yeah, it's also a sensitive subject for our readers because next month is the big Washington conference, and one of the points that the industry will make is protecting fruit and vegetable purchases within SNAP and WIC. And it is important to the industry to have access to that. But, I think, if I was the king of the produce industry, I would be taking on all that other junk that's in there and getting it taken out to have produce in there.
Yeah, and they have to also, somebody has to ask the question, are the SNAP dollars buying more widgets or food? Are they buying more volume, or are they buying more profits? Where do we, like, who's going to police that? There's some questions there about, who's in charge of this, because I'm mentioned I'm on TikTok. I watch a lot of videos and a lot of stuff, and there's a fair number of them in my algorithm of people going through the grocery store and showing outrageous prices on things that I would not, it's not happening as much where I live in Texas because we have a lower cost of living grocery wise, but when I go in other markets, I'm pretty shocked at some of the prices, especially when you go somewhere like a Publix in Florida, or go somewhere. Where was I recently? I was store checking in California. Yeah, some of the prices in California, the produce wasn't as bad, but center store stuff, yeah, a lot more expensive than I'm paying here in Texas. I'm insulated from higher prices, so I'm a little less sensitive about these inflation stories, I guess, just from my anecdotal experience.
Yeah, I guess Frosted Flakes in Monterey, California pack a pretty hefty punch, huh? I wasn't shopping for that when I was there, so I didn't notice.
No, I like to go to grocery outlet when I'm in California, so I'm definitely not seeing as many high prices. I'm buying all the you know the weird wacky flavors of high protein oatmeal and stuff that was like 99 cents for a box of it, and at home it's $6 because it's fancy, that now my kids won't eat it, but that's another story. Well, speaking of what my kids will eat, I had a fun experience with ARC Foods this week with my big boy Ike. If you guys can remember, as long as I've been doing videos, Ike has been there even before he was born, and now he's this giant. I had him cook something for me, and it was the opposite experience that I had with a frozen meal, where I'm like, I just got to feed these kids, man. I'm tired of making food. So I had him make the kit, and you'll have to check out the video to see if, and I'm selling him short. He's a decent cook. He can make his own Alfredo sauce from scratch. So he's all right. But I wanted to take that angle of it, of how user friendly is this kit, and I was really not expecting to find actual rice in there. Maybe I didn't read the press release well enough to know that it was a complete meal in a bag. But that was fun.
Minus the meat.
Minus the meat, but if you're really trying to eat a lot of food that's nutritious for you and fill up on vegetables, that was it. And we just had some of those pre-cooked chicken pieces like that you're supposed to throw on a salad. We had some of those languishing in the fridge because no one wants to eat them, so we tossed that in there, and there was plenty of sauce for all of that, and it was 140 calories a serving, 4 servings in a bag, and my 15-year-old could have eaten the whole bag himself.
Yeah, it didn't. It did look good. I watched the video. It looked good. I'm not a big cooked carrots person, so that would have been a turnoff. But the rest of it looked like very high quality and did not look like quantity food.
Right.
I mean, in like the low quality.
Right. No, there was not very much rice
crappy
in there.
buffet quantity food experience. It looked like pretty high quality stuff. I would definitely buy that, and I would add chicken like you did.
Yeah, I would add chicken or whatever else you have on hand. My younger one would probably like tofu, but that's him. So you'll have to check that out. But for now,
the 80 pounder, right?
he's like 70 pounds. One of them's 6'4.5", 230. The other one's 4'9" and 70 pounds soaking wet. So, Well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Weekend Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.